The Isle of Man International, one of the strongest open tournaments in the world. The first round pairings were rather chaotic and random. Here we analyze the first round between Carlsen and Birkisson. Carlsen begins with pawn to c4. Carlsen has been playing a lot of e4s recently. Here he goes for the English opening, knight to f6, knight to c3, pawn to e6, pawn to d4, bishop to b4, the Nimzo-Indian, pawn to e3. Carlsen decides to go for the Rubinstein variation. All he wants is a playable position. Black castles kingside, knight to f3, pawn to b6, bishop to d3, bishop to b7, Carlsen castles, pawn to d5, c takes d5, e takes d5, knight to e5, Carlsen goes for knight to e5 planning f4, a3 is more commonly played here, knight b to d7, pawn to f4, knight to e4, knight takes e4, d takes e4, bishop to c4, all this has been seen before, queen to e7, pawn to a3, now Carlsen wants to push back the bishop, gain space and activate his own dark squared bishop. Bishop to d6, pawn to b4, knight to f6, bishop to b2, pawn to c6, black has played quite well so far, queen to c2, pawn to b5, this looks like a slight inaccuracy, maybe pawn to a5 instead was better, bishop to b3, pawn to a5, pawn to h3, knight takes c6, bishop takes c6, queen takes c6 doesn't give white much. Carlsen plays h3 to prevent any annoying knight g4 nonsense, although simply b takes a5 probably would have given him a pleasant advantage, a takes b4, a takes b4, bishop takes b4, this is clearly a mistake, f7 is now weak and Carlsen aims to exploit this. Moving the rook to b8 or c8 was necessary. Rook takes a8, bishop takes a8, rook to a1, knight to d5, this is definitely a blunder. Black was so focused on his weakness on f7 that he completely missed Carlsen's next move. He should have played queen to e8, can you see what Carlsen played here, rook takes a8, an excellent move. Now black's position collapses, rook takes a8, queen takes c6, knight to c7, bishop takes f7 check, king to h8, of course not king f8 when after queen takes e4 if g6 white has bishop takes g6, queen takes e4, rook to f8, pawn to d5, a very good move. Now black is in dire straits if he tries to blockade with bishop to d6. White has the spectacular knight g6 check when after h takes g6 white plays, bishop g7 and black gets checkmated. Also if queen to d6 bishop e6 when after knight takes e6 d takes e6 black is in all sorts of trouble as he can't even capture on e6 because his bishop is hanging. Rook takes f7. The pressure was too much to handle and Birkisson crumbles, knight to e8 was the only reasonable defensive try, knight takes f7 check, queen takes f7, queen takes b4, knight takes d5, queen takes b5, knight takes e3, Carlsen now converts to a clearly one queen ending with two extra pawns by playing, queen to b8 check, queen to g8, and now bishop takes g7 check, king takes g7, queen to e5 check, king to f7, queen takes e3, queen to g6, king to h2, pawn to h5, queen to b3 check, king to f8, queen to b8 check, king to g7, queen to e5 check. Black is all tied up and his only pawn will soon fall, there's nothing to hope for, so black resigned here. Thank you. Please like, share and subscribe. Also share your feedback in the comments section below. Have a great day.